Welcome to Innovating a Game Changer podcast. This is podcast 26. Today we're going to look at design sprint outcomes. I'm your innovator. This is Nevada Smith, and you're listening to Innovating a Game Changer podcast. Okay, welcome to the Innovating a Game Changer live stream. I've got Dave McFall on the call and William Parish, and today we're going to talk a little bit about design sprints and how you use those and what the outcomes of those things were. This week we finished up a design sprint through Thursday, and we are ready for our interviews, which will actually happen tomorrow. Will's been working with me specifically on that, and Will actually went through with Dave on the weekend and took a design sprint or a compressed design sprint to get a particular idea all the way through so they could understand it better. Just for Will, we will not be speaking specifically about the functionality, of course, because that is confidential information, but everything else around the process is up for grabs. So, Will, do you want to introduce yourself really quickly again?
Yeah, hi, my name is William Parish. Like I said last week, I'm a computer science major at Kennesaw State University, and I'm working for Bridge 2 Solutions under Nevada.
And we've also got Dave McFall on, and he's with he's working specifically with Will as well on this side project that they're doing. So, Dave, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm David.
Any other background that you want to give, Dave?
I'm a computer science major, minor in software engineering at Kennesaw State University, along with Will. I pretty much work with startups right now, so doing a bunch of stuff for that.
Great. So, Will, we might just start with, we started off the week pretty aggressively, and we got through our prototype. Our prototype finished up today. I did see the latest round of that, so that was really good to see those changes come through at the end. Once we presented to those SMEs and got some initial feedback, so I think we're ready to go into the design sprint interviews that we're going to be doing tomorrow. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience this week and maybe compare and contrast it with what you guys did with the accelerator one you did on the weekend?
So this week it was different in the sense that on Sunday we had to take the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday and basically condense it down into a span of 3 to 4 hours. So it was very interesting to see the change of pace from Sunday going into Monday, because Monday at work we actually followed through with talking to the experts, seeing out what they wanted and how it would then translate into a prototype, whereas with Sunday we only had our team to work with, and we had to basically get the ideas out of their brain as quick as possible. So it was very challenging because they all had one specific way they wanted to take the product, and each of them wanted to take the product a different way. So trying to get them all together was very interesting. We were able to get it done. Dave and I have been working to get a prototype out, and everything. We're working with we're working on getting the exact list of the minimum viable product out of their designs. But it's going well so far. And then with today, or this past week, I should say, it was going at the slower pace, not really slower. It was a lot more, it's demanding in its own way. It was very, very intriguing to see the two different aspects within a week of each other, but very enjoyable.
Okay. And Dave, did you, as far as you looked at, Will was talking specifically about having competing priorities from the different SMEs that are in the room. So how did you guys deal with whose priority goes to the top of the stack?
Had them list out all their ideas that they wanted and see what sort of priority they wanted to issue to it. And then we all pretty much had a discussion with the whole group to which ones everyone thought was the most important thing to go for. And we go through the pros and cons of that and pretty much order the stack according to those.
Okay, and Will, we did an exercise where we utilized money, the yard sale stickers, to identify our highest priority items and those people that spend the most money on those, and we put them in that order. Did you find that more efficient or a different way, or
that was definitely the approach that we took. It was definitely a lot more efficient because being able to see the heat map of the different colors was almost immediate to see which ones people wanted the most. Just because you could see across the board that they all wanted one or two features at top priority, and then you could see which ones could be dropped off or waited until later. Because they had either the $1 sign or they didn't have anything at all. So it was very, very quick and easy to see.
Yeah. So I think when you get through the next stage, you guys have probably defined high-level minimal viable product. Probably a great exercise for you guys to do next would be taking each one of those MVPs, breaking them down into a wider feature, maybe a couple of sentences about the feature, and then just go through. I don't know, Will, if you might not have had experience with one of my sessions where I take features down to acceptance criteria, and those acceptance criteria then become each one of the user stories for the actual product as you go forward. So that might be a great exercise. I can definitely show you that tomorrow, and follow that through to make sure that the MVP is exactly what these individuals want inside of their product.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be more than beneficial because I'm just getting into the game. I'm just understanding how these design sprints work. So any help would be beneficial for sure.
So Dave, your experiences, is this the first time you've done a design sprint?
This is the first design sprint I've done, period. I've done some agile stuff before with smaller projects, but I have never done a design sprint. And the concept seemed very interesting to me, and I was more than willing to go with it.
And have you guys ever done hackathons?
I haven't done a hackathon per se exactly, but we are going to do one up into the fall, though.
Yeah, so I've done coding competitions where it's 5-6 hours of just straight coding.
Yeah, the ICPC. Yeah, we've done that before.
So comparing with... Yeah, I was going to ask, so comparing with going straight to code versus trying to understand at least what you're trying to code, I always make the joke, right, that, hey, developers, go off and start code and I'll go and find out what they want, right? So those are the two approaches, and I find hackathons are really... the people that seem to win those hackathons are the ones that kind of spend a little bit more time up front and making sure that what they're trying to build is storyboarded out. And that's where I was trying to go to see if you saw a difference between, and it's pretty hard to say when you're only doing a 5-hour, grind hack. That's basically what that is, versus a hackathon where you've got 24, 48 hours to actually build a product on either some APIs that are out there that some company's sponsoring, like ADT or a Coca-Cola. They do a lot of them in Atlanta, and typically they're giving you a set of APIs that you can work with, and your idea is to utilize those APIs in exciting ways. And again, you've got somewhere between 24 hours and 48 hours, elapsed hours, that is. They normally let you go to sleep. And at the end of that, you end up with some sort of innovative product sitting on top of those APIs. So you guys should definitely get some experience with that. They're always going on. There's probably one going on every single weekend in Atlanta, and it's definitely worth getting involved in that.
Yeah, our college is actually hosting one in the fall, so it'll definitely be interesting to take these things that I'm learning in the design sprint and applying them to the hackathon. It'll definitely be an interesting 48 hours.
Is that an open? Yeah. Is that an open hackathon or
you have to be enrolled in our college.
Okay.
As far as I'm aware.
Okay, well, maybe you can find out a little bit more about that, because I'd love to join you guys and see what you guys create.
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. I'll talk to the dean and see what the whole breakdown is with it, and if we are opening it up to the public to watch and everything like that, because it'll be a fun time. We have a lot of big name companies coming there to they're hosting it / basically just scouting for potential programmers.
Well, I've locked you down, Will. You're not allowed to go anywhere.
I know I'm off the market, but there's a lot of big names like Dave. Dave is going to be competing, so I've got to make him shine.
Yeah, I think we definitely need to build something together, Dave, in the near future to see what
I
you
agree.
got and push that stuff.
Oh,
forward.
I agree. I love coding. I love showing my skills.
Yeah.
I never say no to a challenge.
Yeah, so there may be some opportunities coming up outside of existing employment. I do a lot of stuff in the Atlanta startup market, so they're always looking for people to help them get some prototype on the ground so that they can get some funding, and then of course once you get that funding, then they typically turn into full-time jobs. Well, as long as they last, if they've done their work correctly and actually driven home on the customer value and tested that in the market with their prototype, they're generally successful. The ones that I see not being successful are those entrepreneurs that are so in love with what their idea is and they don't really think about testing it in the market to see if anybody else loves it, right? So those are typically the ones.
And they're not willing to have their idea change at all. They're strict on their one idea and they just run it into the ground.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
And that's that's a little bit of what we saw this week too, in that fact that we definitely got steered in a direction. Some of the more innovative directions that we were taking in the particular product that we were building into prototype this week definitely were steered based on the SME feedback to solve specific problems. But it was interesting to see as we got some of the feedback from the SMEs, the direction of somebody that's truly been out in the market and has dealt with the market over and over again, especially in the space that we're in, and then getting that feedback and understanding that feedback is, a representation of the customer that we were going after. Whereas on the technical side, we tended to get steered in a more generalized direction. So I think the feedback that we got in the last few hours of the day was highly important to make sure that we were sticking with the spirit of the innovation that we were doing. And we didn't get rid of any of the other features that we actually prototyped. We're just moving those off to the side. They're definitely things that would be in release 2, so they kind of just fell off the MVP list. So you guys, with what you're building, what's your next phase that you're going through now? Is it going to be a coding effort, or you're going to try and prototype something and push it to the market?
What we're pretty much doing is trying to prototype the idea itself, get collated, and get pretty much a skeleton for everything we want to do with it.
Similar to what I've been working with the design sprint at Bridge 2 is we're trying to see if this is something that the customers want. It also is allowing us to have a workable prototype that we can take to investors rather than clients. We're taking it to investors to get the initial funding, so we can then put a development team together to get it out to market. So we're hoping to have that prototype done within the next week or so.
Okay, that'd be great. Yeah, get me an NDA and I'll definitely provide you some feedback there. So anything else? I was really impressed where we came. This is the first time I've actually used Proto.io, which is an online tool that we had specific requirements this time. Normally, I've got a UX expert on the team, and typically we'd be using something like Envision, which is good, but you kind of need some skill sets in the UX UI arena to be able to utilize that tool. And I found that, at least with what I was seeing happening during the construction of the prototype itself, that Proto.io was a great tool. So would that be something you'd use again, Will?
Absolutely. I mean, the fluid connection that we can have between the different products is absolutely incredible. It allowed us to seamlessly connect multiple different flows, and which is going to be very helpful moving forward with our project, because we do have a couple different flows we need to create. We have basically just one for each aspect that we're doing, and so having that ability to seamlessly combine all of them was great. It was also very easy to work with, had a very quick learning curve.
Yeah, and you guys actually went off the team themselves with you and the other 4 developers or people that are interns, let's say that, because they weren't all developers, went off and chose that tool. And do you want to walk us through the process that you utilized to find the tool? Obviously, I gave you instructions that said I must get this on a mobile application. I must be able to have it in my hand and utilize it so that we can get that feel. But that was pretty much all the direction I gave you guys, and you came back with a fantastic tool. So walk me through that process.
So the way that we went about doing it was I talked to one of the other interns that we knew wasn't going to be there during this design sprint that had actually done them in the past, and she gave us a lot of direction, and she actually walked me through a couple of the different apps that she used. One of them was Envision. I decided against Envision just because it did require a lot of you needed to know your way around it, which we don't have the time. We didn't have the time to learn it.
Okay.
So we looked at Fluid UI and Proto.io. Those were the 2 main ones we looked at. And Proto.io definitely fit our needs better just because it was very quick and easy to prototype with. Fluid UI, it was kind of, you had to search more for the things you wanted. Proto.io, it had, whenever you select that you're doing an iOS application, it had all of the items right there. It had the notification bar, it had different pop-ups, and they were all exactly the same UI style that the iOS application was. You didn't have to style it or anything right there. It was just, you just drag and drop. It was fantastic, and you could do different animations. You could speed it up, slow it down. It was a lot. It was a lot more fluid for what we wanted than Fluid UI.
Yeah, I remember the experience that I had when I first loaded it on my phone, and I got real angry at you guys, internally angry, not externally angry, because there was the first step in it asked me to install a certain partner's application, and I was like, why are you making me install this? I thought it was actually taking me to the App Store, so it actually got me fooled very, very quickly. So I was almost immediately sold once I believed it was real on the first screen that was there, because it kind of the flow that we discussed as far as getting the various features up and running. I guess we did talk about taking a person to the App Store, which is part of the flow, but I was surprised that my phone was taking me there when in actual fact it wasn't. It was just mimicking. It was taking me there. So I really enjoyed that. That was an eye-opening experience. And we also saw that too as we were walking through some of the SMEs through it, right? They were really, really confused in certain aspects of it as why this is part of the experience. An example of that would have been when we had a list of the various flows on the first screen. They're like, well, why is that there, right? Well, why is that in the app? And you've got to set some context around the application itself, especially when you're dealing with such disjointed. The thing that we were solving was very disjointed, and the whole outcome of this design sprint was to try to make it not less disjointed, but allow the individual user to utilize the various components that they needed to use, even though they were provided by different organizations. So I think we did a really, really good job about getting those features that were on the top of our list into the application really quickly.
It was very interesting because we've been working with it for 4 days straight now. Our minds have been filling in the blanks. So having the SMEs come in and who haven't been looking at this for close to 32 hours, 33, 34 hours now, and they're like, well, what's this? And they're basically breaking our holes, and we're like, oh, we completely didn't even see that, because we've been so tunnel visioned at this point. So having them come in and basically just breaking that tunnel vision was extraordinarily helpful, because I mean, it's true, you do get stuck in a rut when you work with the same thing day in and day out. You just start filling in the blanks where they need to be filled in.
And Dave,
so it was very interesting.
Has that been your experience too, Dave, with when you get you guys are developing something and you just get that, hey, this seems like it needs to work properly. These are how I understand the requirements. I've implemented it. and how dare you come back to me and tell me it's wrong.
It was pretty much how it's been for us too.
So you talked about working with a couple of startups before. Have you been mainly developing on those as part of those teams, or are you part of the business development as well? That's for Dave.
Mostly what I've done with the startups is and they'd have an idea that they wanted to do, and I would go in there as a single individual developer and pretty much create their idea for them. And that's pretty much been what I've done so far.
And are you getting use cases, user stories? What's the mechanism that they give you?
Every time I went in there, I would ask them, I need some user stories from you. I want some use cases. I want every idea you want this thing to be. Write it down each individually as each stakeholder I had with the business. I wanted them to each write down their ideas separately so that I have an idea of which ones are really most important. Because if I get a bunch of ideas about the same thing, I can collate that to one feature if they wanted and say, this is a big priority one because everyone's wanting it.
So do you help them explore those feature sets, or are you mainly just on the receiving end of them?
I try to help them explore it. I try to participate in the use cases. They'll pitch me their idea and everything they want it to be, and I will go through that process with them. And from my side and the developer side of, okay, I think these features are important. This is important. This is important, and see how much that aligns with their ideas as well.
Okay, and you are you using any special tools or processes to make sure that what you're about to build for them is going to be correct?
I haven't used many specific tools, more just wireframing stuff, just to quickly write up some stuff, demo them.
Okay, sounds good. So you're actually a rare breed out in the market then, if you're actually involved with the process of collecting those requirements too, and helping the individual understanding it. And most of the developers that you deal with, want to be handed stuff. It is definitely changing now. Once upon a time, people used to say, well, that's not my job, but I'm seeing more and more people getting involved in various aspects of it. And I think that's where the market's going to. I talk a lot about the innovation cycle, the innovation process. Design sprints are one way of doing that. And you really need a cross-capable team that can play many different roles on the team to make sure that all the gaps are being filled. And that you could be required to do requirements gathering, wireframing, or you could be doing automated test development, DevOps tomorrow, and development. It's important to make sure that you're able to play all those roles. So the more experience you guys can get with that, the better it is for you. I think that's one of the success things that I've had in my 25 years career is just getting exposure to all of those areas and pitching in when things needed to be done. And then that way you will be one of those developers that they can put in front of a client, and from there your career pretty much goes through the roof. So you guys got any other topics that you want to talk about, or any other feedback or questions for me?
You got anything, Will?
No, I mean, I talk to you on a daily basis. So if I have a question, I usually just ask you during the day. So not personally. I think the work with the design sprint and everything is extraordinarily helpful, even without just going through it. It allows you to work through problems that you don't necessarily know how to solve, especially with Dave and I doing work outside of Bridge 2. It's been extraordinarily helpful.
Yeah, well, I'll be glad to share more of those workshop activities with you and some of the rounds that I do in other innovation stuff, so you can take a look at those and see which ones would be helpful to go through. Then you can teach Dave how to do that stuff. Again, I definitely think that the innovation cycle, these short development cycles, these design sprints, and even when you're getting to an enterprise level, the Scaled Agile framework are all important aspects to be able to deliver software very quickly. And I think at the end of the day, that's what it's all about, is getting something out to the market so that the market can tell you what you're doing right and what you're doing wrong. And without that, of course, we've got no way to sell a product. So I think that's what a lot of enterprise application developers miss out on. You know, they want to put all 395 different features into the application, and they can't go live until, 3 years of development's gone. And in this day and age, that market is probably moved on by the time you deliver it like that. So the only way forward is those short iteration cycles, making sure you've got quality code, getting a feature knocked out, and then getting that feature out to the market. So that's something to take away and keep in your mind as you move forward through your career. When somebody's arguing about which features should be put in there, prototype both of them and do some A/B testing, and the market will tell you which one's right and which one's wrong. All right. If you guys don't have anything else, I'll shut it down for now. This will be available in the next 45 minutes or so as a live recording. It's also going out on Apple, so if you wanted to go out there and download the Apple podcast, you can do that. That typically is published within 24 hours of us doing this. So thanks for joining me, guys. I appreciate it. And Will, I'll talk to you tomorrow. And Dave, I hope to meet you in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. This has been Innovating a Game Changer podcast. I'm your innovator, Nevada Smith, and we were talking about design sprints. I look forward to bringing you more topics in the future. Thanks a lot.